Hi everyone, and welcome to the Property for Profit cheat sheet on how to find cash flow positive investment properties. This cheat sheet contains an enormous wealth of information that we use in our company as a guideline for how we find and assess cash flow positive property investment opportunities. As you'll see, it is huge. In our office, it's up on the wall, and we've had to sticky tape together 6 A3 size sheets of paper to capture it all in a format that can be readable. It's used in here every day, and it's our starting point and our reference point for our search for cash flow positive investment properties. As you know, cash flow positive properties that also grow well in value is the holy grail that we're all after. So what I thought I would highlight to you today is just one tiny part of this cheat sheet that's up on the screen at the moment, and that these are the things that we've discovered through our experience contain the factors that you need to start with, to start narrowing down the sorts of areas in which you're then going to do a more detailed search for cash flow positive investment properties. So here they are. Let's get into them. The first thing you want to look for is a growing population. This is important because population growth produces the demand side of the supply and demand equation. And this rise in population, these are the people who are going to be driving up the rents in an area as they look for rental accommodation. So that's going to make the cash flows better. And it's also going to drive up prices, as some of these people will also buy. The next thing to look for is improvements in infrastructure, and in particular, infrastructure that's going to produce recurrent expenditure and ongoing economic stimulus. Big improvements in transport, industrial facilities, education, things of that nature, which leads us on to possibly the most important feature: jobs and employment growth. Ultimately, it's the jobs people are doing and the money that they're earning that's going to be paying our rent. So if you want cash flow positive properties that are also going to have a good capital growth, this is absolutely key. Look for big new job creators like company investment, industrial facilities, and other things that are going to require a large scale, highly paid workforce. Some of this might come from government sources, which is our next point. Not only do we want to see better facilities such as roads and bridges, but more importantly, facilities that are going to require large amounts of ongoing expenditure, which will pump up the local economy. Airports, defence establishments, government department relocations, things of that nature. On the supply side of the equation, we need to gain an understanding of land and supply availability. Ideally, we want to assess how much new land is becoming available and ensure that this does not exceed the increase in demand from the factors that we've just mentioned. So you'll need to make an educated assumption about the number of people in each dwelling and use this as a factor to start making your calculations. On average, this is about 2.7 people per dwelling, but this is an average across Australia, and it will vary from area to area. You want to ensure that there are unlikely to be any oversupply issues based on building permits issued and the pipeline of land supply. Ideally, we want a place to be becoming more livable, and this is going to happen by improvements in amenity, schools, shopping facilities, sporting facilities, cafes, and things of that nature. Council websites are a great source of material about industry in the area and what is being done to attract more business. You'll be surprised at how much really useful information you'll find on these websites. Some have details about job creation, industry spending, time frames, and all sorts of useful other things. Go deep with newspaper articles about the things you'll discover elsewhere. Search for historical articles when you think you're onto something. I've found that journalists are usually happy to send articles through if you can just find a snippet of information or a reference online to an article that a journalist has written, but you can't find the rest of the details. Often these searches are going to take you outside of the capital cities to regional areas, where the prices are usually coming off a lower base, so there is more room for capital growth, and rents are discounted from capital city rents, but not by as much as prices. So yields are usually higher to start with. So in these regional areas, there'll be a finite number of companies that are active, maybe half a dozen or a dozen or so. So search each of the major companies' websites and find out what they are about to be doing. The press release section of these websites is often good for seeing what's announced about what they're about to be doing. The last point is to be mindful of the style of housing to make sure that you're providing the right sort of housing for the market. For example, if the dominant style of residences for an area is housing and you're providing apartments to the rental market, just do so with caution. Now, that brings us to the end of this small section. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've only covered a tiny part of this cheat sheet here today, as it's a vast document. If you want to see and use the whole thing, you are very welcome to have it. Just click on the link lower down in the email and you can save it. And if you print it out, you're going to need to get your sticky tape ready. It's a huge document, as I mentioned, and you'll need at least 6 A3 sheets before it becomes readable. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you have found it to be helpful. Stay tuned to these emails because there is heaps more valuable information being released soon. Thank you. Bye for now.